Great to be back at GIDS here this year in 2017. I thought Steve did a fairly good job about promoting the Java community. I was here last year to talk about the top skills required for the next gen Java developers. You can look at that presentation. It should be available on the GIDS website. But as I was walking here this morning, I saw a lot of keynote addresses on technology and different tech stacks and so on. And this year we decided that we're going to do something different. Different but very relevant to this audience. So if you've Googled the term millennial, you will find a bunch of content out there on the internet, a bunch of videos, blogs, a lot of media articles about both millennials in India as well as from a global perspective. What we wanted to do this morning was to take a deep dive into millennials in technology and in India. So that's going to be my topic for the next 15 minutes or so. And this topic is fairly debatable. You know, if you've looked at some of the things which happened at NASSCOM earlier this year, there was a lot of debate around whether the existing workforce in India, is it really ready for the changing landscape in technology? So I'm going to address some key questions, and I'm going to back it up with some data, and hopefully we'll be able to answer this question. As you know, one of the things you'll find in those articles is that there's a lot of talk about millennials being high maintenance, a lot of aspirations. You know, they need different workplaces, different approach to managing them, and all of that. And then there's a lot of talk about how the role they're going to play in this changing landscape. So I'm going to address these questions and hopefully give you an insight into the answer we came up with. So before that, I want to set some context here. If you look at the last 5 generations, this is how it kind of lays out or breaks out, right? So you start off with the radio generation, which is what, and if you look at each of these generations, there is some innovation or technology which was the identity of that generation. So if you look at radio was very popular in the 40s. A lot of radio was used for wars, fighting battles, all of that. Then we come to the baby boomers. Those are most parents. Many of the parents we have. For them, TV was a big thing. I mean, TV was really something which they spent a lot of time watching and defined what they did. Then we move into Gen X, where computers were the first things. That was the big innovation at that time. Automation around using computers and so on. And then we come to millennials, and I think they are very fortunate because they saw 2 big things happening. One is obviously the introduction of the internet, and secondly, obviously the proliferation of a lot of handheld devices, things which kept them constantly in communication, always on. And then we're going to talk about the future generation, which is Gen 2020, which is all going to be about community and things what Stephen talked about. So in terms of where we go from here, I'm going to go to the next slide here. Okay, so why is it so important to understand these generations and what can we learn from them? A lot of them get defined and what they do by things like the economy at that time, the technology, as well as the value system of that generation. And that drives things like their priorities, what they do in their workplaces, and so on. Currently today, we do see a big war for global talent. And I think millennials are going to play a key role in us solving that today as well as in the near future. So how did we go about getting data? So Sabre did a millennial survey. We did 2 of them. One was done late last year, and then we followed it up with another which we did early this year. And we focused on 2 types of millennials. One which we call as emerging millennials, and these are millennials which are in technology at key universities in India. And we reached out to them because we have those relationships. Sabre works with the BIDS system, the NIT system. So we pushed out these surveys to predominantly engineers who are in their last year of graduation. And these are first-time job seekers. So these are students who are looking at what types of jobs they would like to be in. We got a fairly good mix of diversity. So we got a good mix, 75% male and 25% female. We also asked them some directed questions on what constitutes a great place to work, what is the type of technology they would like to work in, and what is a dream company. So we got a lot of data. I'm going to share that with you because I want to intermix my analysis based on new millennials as well as existing millennials. Working millennials are the ones which are currently already in jobs at technology companies. We got a fairly good mix again from a diversity perspective. The questions we asked them were slightly different. They were around what do they think are the challenges in terms of the changing landscape in technology? Do they think they have the right skills or the right support system, ecosystem to succeed in that? So we got all this data. We did, my team who's here, Rachna and the rest of the Sabre team did an awesome job of bringing out insights, and that's what I'm going to share in the next few slides. So what were the three things they said about what makes an employer, an organization, a great place to work? No surprise here. Both of those millennials said that work culture still stands out as the number one reason for a place to be great. And that's when the views started diverging a bit. Recognition was very important for the emerging millennials. I guess part of it is they're still in the university system. They're used to being recognized, giving certificates, getting awards, so on. So a lot of that is still carried over. For working millennials, leadership, management was very important. They felt that defined the organization, that gave them the organization a direction, an identity, and so on. And finally, the emerging millennials felt that global opportunities was a big thing for them. They really wanted to get a global exposure in terms of technology, in terms of customers, and so on. And for working millennials, it was all about perks and benefits. So keep this in mind as we move forward from here. The other question we asked was, what was the most desired career opportunity? And I don't think there are big surprises here. So the guys out there in the universities felt that big data analytics was a very hot technology. They all wanted to do something with it. And I'm sure Stephen will be happy with what he's seeing from existing millennials. Java continues to be very, very popular amongst folks who are already already employed. Though a lot of the based on what I said last year, the core Java skills are changing. If you're a Java developer, you need to really think out of the box, talk about a lot of the next gen stuff, and so on. So I'm coming now back to the central question, which is, are millennials really ready? Do they really accept the fact that technology around them is changing? And do they really acknowledge the problem? So our results said about more than 86% of them felt that they needed to be upskilled in some form. They needed to be retrained. They needed to be given some opportunities. They felt that they had the capability, and this is a key insight. So if you look at some of the discussions, the panel discussions which were done at NASSCOM earlier this year, there were some really debatable statements made by certain executives which said that about 80% of the workforce today in India cannot be retrained, right? I mean, that created a lot of Twitter traffic. There was a lot of debate around that. The other thing we found is that already a large portion of those millennials are taking proactive steps on their own or through help from their employer to basically embrace and understand and get skilled. We also looked at, from a ecosystem perspective, are there enough opportunities to learn these new skills? And as well as the acceptance that if they are not retrained, a lot of the jobs are going to go away. I think that's an established fact. I think there's no debate around that automation, a lot of the things we are talking in the industry today with respect to India is going to lead to a dramatic shift in the types of skills we'll need for the future. And then, artificial intelligence and machine learning, we give them a lot of options on things they wanted to work on as for the future. These two things stood out as the most popular amongst millennials. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about in the next 2 slides is going to be about that. So the previous slide talked about, it was from an employee or a millennial perspective. We also wanted to take a employer-centric view of this and what are employers doing for millennials to be successful. So I'm sure there are lots of folks here, engineers who work for great companies, but I can tell you, a lot of them are not working on robotics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and it's not about that they don't want to do that. There are certain drivers, business reasons, products are not ready yet to do some of that. They don't have the capabilities, the ecosystem around that. So clearly this is a two-way street. I think for us to say that, we are going to bet on the millennials, we just can't, we need to provide, as employers and as organizations, we need to make sure that we provide them with the right skills and the right type of training and opportunities. So, in terms of what are employers doing in the short term, I think Sabre has close to 75% millennials today in my office, and that's a huge number. So we are, there's a lot of things going on in our roadmaps in terms of our training, delivery of training, etc. But we are also doing things which we believe are required at this time. Which is around flexible work environment. And if you look at what organizations are doing, the key word here is flexible. I think millennials expect us to be flexible in terms of, when they show up to work, when they leave the office, location, work from home, work from wherever they're vacationing. I have a person on my team who takes a ski holiday every February. But he always works during the week and he's on the ski slopes on the weekend. I mean, that's been a tradition and we've had no issues with that. Flexible, the role definitions have changed. We see very few times where roles are very well defined in terms of what the millennials are doing. Recruitment has done a lot of different things in order to attract the millennials. So again, when we asked the questions around this, 78% felt that employers are doing all their best to make environments and workplaces more flexible. So coming back to how do I tie it up back to Sabre? So Sabre's, we are in the travel business. We solve very difficult and large travel-related problems. And one of the things we are working on right now is biometrics. Because if you look at security, you look at the way passengers move through airports, we are piloting with different ways in order to identify a traveler. Face recognition is one of them. Obviously, we've talked about fingerprints. We talked about reliable traveler program, all of that. So there's a lot of work going on at Sabre in terms of identifying who the traveler is. IoT is a big thing. I'm a big proponent and a big believer that travel and IoT are going to be big. The travel industry is going to be the biggest users of IoT, and we can see that right now in hotels. Many of the big chains have beacons put out in their properties to identify how much time a guest is spending in which part of the hotel. It's great for hotels to build great bars, great lounges, etc. But if they're not seeing traffic, they want to capture all of that data. And they're doing that by spreading IoT devices throughout the property. Google Glass, so we have experimented. We do have a flight search now, which works with Google Glass. So all you do is wear the glasses, and as you're doing other things, you can basically skip through availability and book travel and look at different flight options. From a machine learning perspective, we are also looking at how machine learning can improve our time to market. So for example, we have a product which we sell to airlines, which improves their profitability. And traditionally, we've had to assign analysts. These are mostly operation research analysts to go and do some demand forecasting and calibrate the product. What we are doing now is we're using machine learning. We're doing a lot of analysis on history, and we're coming up with ways to automate the entire process where things which took 3 months to calibrate are done in weeks now. The other very important area in which we are experimenting with is also VR. I mean, travel and VR have big use cases. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of you at the Sabre booth. There are a lot that we can share a lot other data elements out of our survey. There are also tech talks today. We have a couple of tech talks on reusing code repositories. 2 of my colleagues are presenting on code quality this afternoon here in this particular hall, so please be there. And thank you very much. And again, please visit our Sabre stall. We'll be all there the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you so much.